Welcome to With Love Men, where we dig deep into what it truly means to be a man today.
And who are you?
I'm Jake Fishbein. Sorry, I'm Jake Fishbein. I'm getting over a flu, so give me some permission to forget a few things.
And I'm a slightly healthier Nick Papadopoulos. I was sick a couple of weeks ago, so I have much love for you, Mr. Jake. I'm Nick Papadopoulos, affectionately known as Coach Nick.
And together we've led men's groups for a combined 25 years.
Yikes. And good. We've also written a novel about a fictional men's group. It's called The Men's Group, a novel of messy friendships, and it is coming out in June 6th or June 9th
June
of
9th. June
June
9th.
9th of 2026. Stay tuned. It's called The Men's Group, a novel of messy friendships.
Yes, stay tuned. There'll be a waiting list link on a website soon. And
Yes,
in addition to our novel, in addition to the men's group community, we run the arena. This podcast is another space where we have real conversations about vulnerability, courage, and connection. No masks, no pretending, just honest talk about being men.
absolutely. So, with that, take a deep breath, everybody. So, Jake, you and I, let's start. Take a deep breath, let it out, and step into the arena with us, and let's get rocking and a rolling.
Let's do it. So, for those of you who are new to listening and for those of you who are returning, I know it's been a while since we recorded one of these podcasts. The way we run this podcast with Love Men is we have a topic and Nick and I both prepare questions separately and then we alternate asking each other questions. So it's like a mini hot seat each time. And hot seats are what we're famous for in our men's group, the Arena. So
Right.
today we wanted to talk about another topic that deeply affects men. It's something that, I mean, everybody in our world thinks about, and I think men have a particular relationship to it. We want to talk about why men chase money. And so I have a question for you to kick that
Okay.
off, which
Okay.
is, what do you think men are actually chasing when they chase money and financial success?
Hmm. How come I seem to get on the hot seat first every time, Jake? Somehow
I
you you
think
you
that's just your experience, Nick.
or is that the story that I'm
I
making
think
up,
that's
right?
the story you're making up.
Right. So why do men why is it important you're saying or
No, why do you think men are actually chasing? What do you think men are actually chasing when they chase money?
what comes to mind immediately was self-worth, worthiness. That if I make a certain amount of money, if I make more money than my friends or my family members, people I went to college with, right? People at work. If I'm better, right, then I am worthy. I matter. I fit in. I'm okay. I'm a real man. I believe that's what's under the iceberg. I really believe that men subconsciously have been socialized to compete and to compare themselves to other men, right? I mean that comes from, well, first of all, generations and generations of the construct that many of us were born into, and it's pretty typical, right, that young boys will compare their penis sizes, right? And, they will compare how fast they run, or who could hit a longer ball out to the outfield, right? I mean, and some of it is just natural, organic, and in fun. And there can be a consequence. And so to go back to the original question, I believe what men are really, really chasing is um is actually that I'm okay, that I've done it well, that my father can be proud, that I can be proud of myself, and I believe that we measure our self-worth by our results, which again, as we've talked about this, that can be really, really dangerous. If you're defining yourself as your results, if you're defining and attaching your self-worth, I mean, that's all external validation. Um, and at the same time, I mean, what's enough? How much
Mm.
money is enough, right? So I get to the mountain that I think I'm supposed to get to, right? I'm making X number of dollars, or I have, X number of property and real estate. I've got more than my college roommate. Well, now you might be in a different circle. Now what? You may have less real estate. You may have a smaller bank account, right? So, and this goes not just for money. I think anytime that we as humans, and again, I know we're talking in the context of men, anytime that we are attached to external validation, you're in big trouble because there's no finish line.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's dangerous to say the least. It's dangerous because it can be exhausting. Like literally, like just you're constantly chasing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And then you don't have that. So if you're attaching your self-worth to it, you're never satisfied. And so the conversation is always, am I worthy enough? Or I don't think that I am.
It's probably one reason we see so many billionaires chasing more and more money, because how could you possibly not have enough with billions of dollars? And yet
Right,
it's probably not about the number of dollars in the bank account. It's about this
right,
this thing that's very ethereal and amorphous and internal, that we've been told we can find through money.
right. Yep, absolutely. So let me put you on the hot seat.
All right, I'm ready.
No sympathy because you're not feeling well. All right, 'cause I think you try to do that so that you could skate by on the hot seat.
Sure, sure,
So
sure.
that the hot seat, no mercy, baby. Um, so you and I both listened to Scott Galloway, Professor Scott Galloway, I think is what his podcast is called. We think highly of him, and he's been talking a great deal about men, and he was sharing some stats, right? Some data. So my question is really around how are economics
Mm,
impacting men, right?
yeah.
And so here's some stats to give a little more background to the question. In 1960, half of 30-year-olds owned a home. Now, in 1960, for those who may know, only men were allowed to own homes. So the majority of those 30-year-olds or under 30-year-olds that owned a home were men. And today, only 15% of 30-year-olds own a home, that's a significant drop, right?
Mhm.
And even out of the 15%, more women, more younger women, right? Because this
Mm,
is under 30 own homes. So men have gone, we went from, half of 30-year-olds down to 15%, and that 15% is now shared with women, which is awesome, by the way. As Scott Galloway always says, like, we don't want to get in the way of that. Like, absolutely, like, keep buying, right? Keep being successful, keep expanding, right? And there's an impact on the psyche, right? And then there's one other stat that I want to share. Two more. Sorry, again, it's part of this question. People my age, so I'm in my mid 50s. People my age are 72% more wealthy than they were 40 years ago,
mm,
right? Where today I think it's like under 25%. So again, economics having an impact.
wow.
Last stat, women are graduating at a pace or a ratio of 2 to 1 to men right now, right? So young women are graduating 2 to 1, which has an impact. So there's less men in the workforce, right? There's less men who are skilled or will be skilled long term, right? That's also going to have an impact on them emotionally, mentally, right? I'm saying all this. So the question is, how are the economics of today
Mm.
impacting a man's relationship to money when we've been brought up in this world where, you just asked me the question about, men are supposed to be the breadwinners, men are supposed to earn, men are supposed to win.
It's so interesting you asked that question, and the first thought I had is, wow, this whole conversation could also be reframed as, why do men chase self-worth?
Mhm.
Because I think I mean, one, the economics are deeply impacting men on a profound, I think, identity level. And this came up not only in Scott Galloway's work, but in Richard Reeves' book of Boys and Men, which came up a few years ago, where he
Hmm.
really looks at the state of men today through a very statistical lens. And a lot of the same statistics he's pointing to. And then I think about what I've heard men say over the past few years, especially in the lead up to last year's election when Trump was reelected, that so many men voted for him because of the economic disparity they were facing, because
Right.
they couldn't afford a home, because they didn't see a pathway to being able to provide for a family. And in essence, I think many men, particularly more traditional men, and I work with
Yep.
a few men who I consider themselves more traditional, that
Okay.
for them, being a traditional man means being the provider.
Right.
It means being the breadwinner.
Right.
And to look at the world and see no opportunity for that, I feel like a lot of men have felt their masculinity stripped away
Mm,
by the economy, by the way that the economy has evolved,
right.
that the United States has become what's it called? I can't remember. I mean, thought work. It's not called thought work, but
Hmm.
like we
Hmm.
used to be a manufacturer economy. We used to be a economy that was very masculine heavy, where men were building things. And now
Right.
we're in an economy that's very thought heavy, that's very
Yep.
intellectualized. And so many men, I think, feel left behind because of that, because that's not who they are. And they
Yep.
feel like their identity, their value, their worth has been stripped away because of how the economy and I mean society has evolved over the past 50, 60 years. Now,
Yep.
I see that, and I see that in a large portion of the male population, and also have a very different experience myself. That's certainly not the way that I look at myself
Yep.
as a man or my experience. Part of that is because I don't feel the need to chase money, and part of that is
Right.
because I have some money myself. And
Right.
so that disparity is not there. I rent. I'm part of that 30-year-olds, 34-year-old percentage that
That don't own home.
don't own a home. I could own a home if I wanted to. And I choose not to buy in New York City because I mean, I don't want to make that investment in New York City
Hmm.
financially. And yet I'm part of that percentage, but I have a different experience.
Right.
And I also look ahead to the next 30, 40, 50 years and definitely see, okay, I'm in a different financial position than my parents were. I'm in a
Yep.
different financial position than my grandparents were, um, in different ways for different sets. And, my life is probably going to look different than my life did when I was young. That I look
Right.
at where I went to college, Kenyon College, this really great liberal arts school in Ohio, and it's costing 86, $87,000 a year right now.
Wow.
But by the
Wow.
time I have kids and they are going to college in 25 years, like what is going to be $150,000 a year? There's no way I could afford to send my kids to a school like that.
Yeah.
Unless something really radically changes in how I'm earning money, or which very well could. I mean, like, so
Does that, let me just to, sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
Does that impact you in any way, right? So your dad, for example, and mom, they sent you
yep,
to Kenyon, right? Let's say you can't or you choose
yes,
not to, right? Because it's like the numbers that you started to describe. Does that in any way mess with your psyche as a man?
absolutely. How can it not? I don't know if it does as a man, but it certainly does as a human. Like, it doesn't
Mm,
make me question my masculinity.
okay.
It doesn't make me feel like less of a man. Now, that may be different when actually faced
When it happens,
when it
right,
happens, but in
right.
the
And your
abstract,
kid's looking at you going, come on, dad.
right, I want to go here. And it's like that would probably very much affect my masculinity. Right now, it affects me in that it makes me very sad
Yes,
to think about. I mean, one, like I had the experience and I'd love my future kids to be able to have the experience I had
right.
and to know that I probably can't give them that same experience, which I mean, you couldn't anyway, but I mean, so many colleges, there are these legacy families. The kids go and the
Right.
grandkids go, and it's like that's a special bond to be able to
Absolutely.
share. And
Absolutely.
to think, okay, I mean, in all likelihood, that's not something I'm going to be able to do. Does fill me
Right.
with a sadness of like that sucks to not have that. And I can imagine that for men who want to raise a family now, who are in a low-paying job or out of work or not feeling valued, that it's that same sadness that they feel
Hmm.
about not being able to exercise their purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for
Part of what,
men, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Sorry, Jake, go ahead. You finish.
I was going to say, and we talk about it a lot, but for men, feeling purpose is so incredibly central to self-worth.
Mm,
And so when I hear these statistics, I don't think it's men are making less money, so they are feeling less masculine, or women are graduating college, excuse me, college more, so men feel less
right.
masculine. I think men feel less valued in general.
Ooh, yeah. Hmm.
And part of that is the financial compensation. Part of that is, I mean, one of the reasons men not graduating college, they don't see the value in it. Uh, and they're not already valued. So they're not valued if they graduate, they're not valued if they don't.
Right.
And now, a lot of people out there will say, all most of the CEOs in the world are men, um and that's true. So it's like there is this dichotomy, and this came up in the book of Boys and Men, which I'm not going to remember exactly. So please,
Right.
listeners, give me some leeway to be wrong,
Especially
uh,
because he's still under the weather. So,
especially because I'm still under the weather. But that the gender wage gap at the highest levels is still really big.
yes, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
as we get lower down in the levels, the gap shrinks and actually reverses.
Yeah, I mean, Galloway, that's what Galloway talks a great deal about is young men compared to young women. Because
Hmm.
absolutely, absolutely, there's still a huge disparity between men and women, men being, getting paid and compensated more than women, which is completely unfair and uncool.
Yes. And yet, for those younger men who aren't seeing that and hearing that narrative, I think they feel forgotten. They feel lack of that. They don't feel valued. They feel like they can't exercise their purpose. And then they go do crazy things out of rage and anger, which is
Right.
really covering up, I think, a deep sadness of
Yes.
not being able to be the men that they want to be.
Yeah, you made a comment before, a commentary on our well economic situation as a nation, right? It seems like we're a nation that's moved from a sense of protection, which is very much aligned with men, their psyche, right, their ethos, right. We've moved away from a sense of empathy, a way of giving everybody a shot and an opportunity, right? I mean, my parents are immigrants. They came here because it's the land of opportunity, right? And what's happened is that, and I think it's both political parties, by the way. One is not better or worse than the other. They both seem committed to doubling down on creating a world where there's just a very small number of people at the top,
Mm,
which is why you start to hear the term oligarchy here in the States. I mean, I've been on this earth for, a little over half a century. I've never heard that before, ever, ever. Not about our country, right? And all of a sudden you have this sentiment, right? And it's in the air. And I do believe it messes with men, inside of this
mm.
conversation of money, or, what am I worth, right? Monetarily, real estate, whatever the case, materialistically, right? We have any, I mean, I'm going to really put you on the hot seat here. I mean, what's the solution, or not solution, but what would you suggest as a way to disrupt this narrative, or disrupt this sort of automatic that, again, focusing a little bit more right now on the younger men, because that's our next generation, right? I mean, I've got
Hmm.
two young boys, 16 and 12. You're going to have kids, right? So I don't know. What would you say in this moment? How do we shift this a little bit?
I was gonna make a really bad joke and poor taste, which I'm not going to do. I think it's the flu talking. I can't mention this man's name on our podcast, so I won't do it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
please.
this is going to be a bad joke. Um,
See, this is what happens on the hot seat, everybody. This is exactly what happens in a men's group session. We lose all sense of our ability to speak, our sense of our language.
it's there. I'm like, there's so many different thoughts, and in large part, there's this big thing saying I have no fucking idea.
And
Um,
that's fine, right?
and I think that's part of the answer is I don't know.
Hmm.
And also part of the answer is to engage in the conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe, it's funny. I saw some prompt on no, it was I use this tool called Granola, and it's
Okay.
an AI note-taking tool, and I promise this is going to get to an answer. And I use it to take notes for my coaching sessions, my meetings, and um, it did something really cool at the end of the year, like Spotify does. It did this wrapped.
Okay. Right.
And so I was going through it, and it said, you're probably best known for, starting an answer to a really deep question, saying, "I don't know," and then giving like a perfect answer to that question. And
Hmm. Hmm.
that was one of the reasons I paused because I was like, I'm going to say I don't know, and then I'm going to, figure out what my answer is. That so much of the work we do is about asking questions. And
Right.
I also think about the work my father does, which has been with coffee farmers throughout the world, specifically in Guatemala since 2008.
Hmm.
And his work has been to help them improve the quality of their lives.
Right.
And as it's emerged over the years, one of the things he's focused on is to go down there and not tell them how to fix their lives.
That's right. You always point that out.
Right. But to go down there and help them figure it out.
Right.
Because the last thing anybody needs is the gringo from the north coming down
Right.
and telling them who are not connected at all to their lives what they should do. And I was speaking with a man who was in our group and is a client of mine yesterday, and he lives out in Colorado, and he, with a few other guys, runs this program called Dude Talk Dinners, was just getting off the ground, and they've like 30 guys coming every month for this
That's awesome.
conversation, and
I
he's
love it.
getting amazing feedback. And he said, excuse me, what he noticed is they're just a bunch of guys like him and the other facilitators. It's not some PhD like Scott Galloway coming
Right.
in and saying, "This is what I'm seeing." This it's just guys talking.
Right.
And so to bring it full circle, I think for those younger generations, what we need to do is just ask the right questions
Right.
and help them navigate and choose how they want to navigate this changing landscape of economics and masculinity.
Yep.
Because as much as I could say it's about finding a way to express those masculine qualities outside of the traditional ways,
Right.
maybe that's not each of their pathway. And who are we to say, not as a Gen Z man, not
Right.
as someone who's graduating high school and maybe deciding not to go to college,
Right.
what their pathway is, but what we can do is ask the right questions.
Yes. Love it. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
I've had you on the hot seat for a while, so
You have,
it's I guess it's my turn. So let me
it's
have
your
it.
turn. Is that your way of avoiding the hot seat too?
Well, you said we're really good at asking questions, so
We are
yeah,
very
yeah,
good at asking questions. So, you know, it's definitely connected with this because I think even in this changing landscape, men are still chasing economic prosperity, or
right.
men still feel pressured to. What's the toll of the money chase? Like, what's the toll of chasing money? What's the cost that has on a person? And specifically for you in your experience when you've chased money in the past, what does it cost you to be so laser focused on that as the validation and expression of your self-worth?
Um, yeah, I mean, uh, there's a line from Pink Floyd, the song "Breathe," which is from the Dark Side of the Moon. And there's a line here that I just want to read in response to your question. It says, "Run, rabbit, run, dig that hole, forget the sun. When at last the work is done, don't sit down. It's time to dig another one." I could stop there because I think that line, right, that lyric, I believe says a whole lot, right? I I I believe that when you're in that mindset and you're chasing, you're never present.
Mm,
You're never present to the moment. You're not present to the journey. You're not present to the people around you. You know, the relationships. You miss. You know, when you're not present and you're just chasing the money, uh, you're not present to the opportunities that are presented in front of you and around you that allow you to grow, that allow you to learn, that allow you to connect more deeply, that allow you to challenge your beliefs, or reinforce your beliefs for that matter, right? I mean, sometimes a learning can be like, oh yeah, I'm on the right path, you know, or
mm,
my core values, like yes, or it's an opportunity to reevaluate, right, a core value or belief or an approach or a mindset. So I would say when you're not present, um, you know how sometimes, I know I've had this experience and I hear people say it often in the workspace. They'll say, "How is it 4 o'clock already?"
mm,
Right? Where did the day go? Or how's it Friday already? Where did the week go? Forget about the day, right? Or wait, how are we in December of 2025 already, right? And some of that can be natural, right? I mean, sometimes we just have busy days, busy lives. And I also believe that that sentiment, if I go underneath, right, what that can be at times is that I missed my kids' baseball games, or I missed, the barbecue, or I missed, I cut my vacation short, or I didn't even plan one because I was just working more. I just missed.
mm.
I missed the conversations, with my friend Jake. I didn't check in with him. You know, I believe it as and I believe that's a huge cost.
Mm,
I really do. I think not being present to yourself. I mean, ultimately, it's really being present to yourself because in what I'm describing. There's really a disconnection from your body. It's a disconnection from your experience, and you're chasing, right? And I said this at the beginning of this conversation. When we're chasing this external validation, right? I need to make more money so that I matter, so that I can have a seat at the table, the metaphorical table, so that I can be a real man, or I can prove that, I did okay compared to, my cousins, or my, a brother, or, my fraternity brothers, whatever, right? Uh, literally, there's never going to be enough. You will never be satisfied because it's not your game that you're playing. You're playing somebody else's game. It's different if you say, "Hey, you know what? My goal in life is to make X number of dollars, or to have X number of savings, or X amount of real estate.
mhm,
That's my goal. Like like that. That's really, really important for me
mm,
because I want that to be part of the legacy that I leave behind, or that's my way of taking care of my future family, right? Um, that in itself is more on your terms, at least, right? Versus, um, I've got to make 100,000 or 200,000 or 500,000 or 1 million, or I've got to own two homes. It's all made up. I mean, we say that all the time. We use that expression all the time. It's all made up. So if you're going to make something up, make it up on your terms, right? I don't want people to listen to this podcast and go, geez, Nick and Jake don't want to make any money. They don't think it's important. It's clearly important. The world that we live in, right? And when I say the world we live in, specifically, like you and I live in New York City, we live in what you'd call, Western culture. money is a huge factor. You need money to do things. You need money to go to the doctor. You need money to, I went to dinner last night, met my, daughter's boyfriend, took them out to, I mean, money plays a factor, right? It is important. It's always about the come from, right? You said it before. You said, "Hey, I live in New York City and I choose to rent." And I choose to rent because, right? And you have your reasons for it. And it leaves you empowered. It leaves you in a healthy place, right? Because you're choosing from an awakened place. You're choosing based on your core values. And I believe that's what's really, really important is go make, let's just call it money, right? Go produce, go buy real estate, go own things. And at the same time, do it, do it on your terms and what's important to
Yeah.
you. If you're somebody who loves cars, like really, like you totally geek out on cars, right? Like I could personally care less, right? I could care
Me
less,
too.
right? Like my son will be in the car driving and he'll be like, Baba, look at that car. And I'm like, yeah, that's amazing. I have no idea what he's talking about, right? He starts rambling on about the this and the that. But you know what? If he wants that car and it costs a certain amount of money and it's gonna, require him to, I don't know, get a certain job or, work a certain number of hours to get it, that's awesome because because like that's gonna make you come to life, right? Or have you come to life, right? But if you want that car because you want to show off, you
Mhm.
want that car because um, that's when quote unquote you've made it, or my car's better than everybody else in the neighborhood or everybody else in my circle. That's super super unhealthy. Um, and I know you asked how's it impacted me personally. I fit that profile. I have fit that profile. I'm guilty as charged. I wanted to be a VP, by 30. I became a VP, by my early 30s and, needed to, I wanted to earn a certain amount of money. Um, and I reached those levels, but not because I wanted to be a VP. I didn't grow up thinking I want to be a VP. I wanted to be a VP because I wanted to beat everybody else out. That's gross, actually. It's
Yeah.
unhealthy. You know what I mean? You know, growing up, I just wanted to be taller. Honestly, I just wanted to be taller, man, which that part didn't work out. Um,
You get enough money though, Nick, and you can make that part work out.
that's true. I could also buy shoes, right? That could,
You could.
help elevate, right? So, um, so I've learned the hard way, if you will, right? Where the universe has smacked me around, to say, listen, I got the VP role. I've managed lots of people. I have two places I live in, right? In New York and up, a few hours away on the beach in Connecticut, right? Like there's a lot that I have, and I would say what's most important that I have is relationships. And I know that sounds corny. I know that sounds cliche. The fact that I have a relationship like I have with you is the world to me. The fact that you know, my boys, will call or text me every day and and talk smack with me and the fact that I can go out to dinner with my daughter and have meet the meet her people. You know what I mean? Like that's actually what counts. And it took me a long time. And so for anybody listening, I would say don't take as long as I did to start to
Mm.
realize, um, be present to your journey, be present to your relationships. And yes, please go make whatever you need to make in order to do the things you want to do as well. So I don't want again, I want
Yeah.
to make sure people know that it is important in the world, the culture that we live in.
I love, everything that you just shared and wanted to say a couple things before we go to our parting shots and talk about how fast something went by. Look, it's already been.
I know.
And yet, one thing I will say is I think yes, we miss that when we're disconnected and we're chasing. When we're super present too, the time flies by.
That's true.
And so it's both of those because oftentimes when we're super present and connected, we're not looking at the clock. We're not,
Right. Yes.
it's
Hmm.
like, I mean, they always say when you're having fun, time flies by.
It's like five
And
minutes,
it's
right?
like 5 minutes. And when you're having fun, fun is the code word for presence. You can't
Yes.
have fun without being present.
Yes.
But there were a couple things I wanted to share and in response, and I'll see if I remember both of them. First one was I was a track athlete for 8 years in high school and college, and what's really depressing is if it's now been longer, I've not been a track athlete than I was one. But still was, such a part of my formative years. And I love the 100-meter dash. It was my favorite
Hmm.
race. And one of the awesome things about track is, yes, it was about competing with the people next to you,
Hmm.
but it was really about competing with yourself.
Mm.
And it was
Hmm.
really every race was, could I get faster?
Yeah,
And I could never control
I
what the
love
people on
that.
either side of me were doing. And some of them were faster, some of them were slower, some of them had a bad race, some of them had a great race. I could only control what the work that I did that I put in.
Right.
And I was thinking about financial pursuit and definitely wanted to reaffirm what you said, which is like, it's okay to want to earn money.
Yes,
It's
of
it's
course.
in fact it's good. We need it, as you were
Yes.
saying. And I
Yes.
know so often even myself vilified that in the past. And there are a lot of people who vilify money. Money is an invented thing.
Yes.
It is not real. No
Hmm.
one ordained money as this divine object. It's just something we decided to, say some stuff had value.
Right.
For you to set a goal and say, I want to earn this much money. I want to go buy that car, or I want to buy this house, or I want to have enough money to go take a trip to go see my family. That
Right.
if that goal is, your PR and the 100-meter dash, like
Yes.
go for it.
Yes.
And like once you hit that goal, if you want to set another one, go for it. But to your point, because it's about you chasing or like improving and growing on your goal,
On your terms.
on your terms, regardless of what the people around you are doing. I have friends who make, I don't know, $300,000 a year. I have friends who make under 50.
Right.
And I don't think any of them are better than each other. They're just
Right.
chosen to do different things in their lives.
Right.
And a case could be made that the friends that I know are teachers who are not making a lot of money. I really think they should be making a ton more money than the bankers out there.
Fair. That's a fair point. Yep.
And I'm just not in charge of the way things
Yeah.
work. There was another point I wanted to make, and I knew I would forget it, and I did forget it. Um, so
That's okay. Well, let me just say this. Maybe it'll pop up. The point you made about competition. I've on my journey, one of the ahas I've had is the only competition is with myself.
yeah,
Because it's aligned with exactly what you just said and what we're talking about. When I compete with myself, what I mean by that is how do I get how do I get smarter? How do I, know more about the world? How do I know more about myself? How do I know about more about our relationship, Jake and Nick, right? Um, that's what's important. How do let me compete with myself? How do I exercise so I can feel a certain way, right? And have a certain
yeah,
weight level or whatever it is versus, geez, all the guys at my age are, X, Y, or Z. It's no, this is what's important to me. I mean, ultimately, when you are aware of your own purpose and your own core values, that is part of being present to the journey. And I, that is everything. That's being
yeah.
rich, right?
It is, and it's what you did remind me of what I was going to say, which is one of the things I recognized a couple of years ago, and it's known that for a while, and I got this from my parents, is that relationships are the thing that matter. And I mean, there's been a cost with that because I haven't pursued earning money in the same way as other people. And
Mm-hmm.
so that, that's a whole, we could be here for another 30, 40 minutes talking about that. But I know for me, what I love to spend money on is are my relationships.
Right.
Like I would much rather go spend money on a plane ticket to go see a friend or my family than I would to go, buy a fancy watch or a
Hmm.
car. I mean, I don't need a car in New York, but it's like I
Right.
see where I put my money is what I value.
Yeah, absolutely. There's something I want to acknowledge you for, Jake, that I want to encourage more men to do in whatever way or version is comfortable for them. You've been building your coaching practice for the last few years, and you
Hmm.
share on the within our men's groups, right? We have different ways that we communicate via private email groups, WhatsApp. You share how as you reach specific milestones that you set for yourself,
Mm.
not compared to what other coaches, let's say, who have their own consulting practices or coaching practices, right? Um, and you'll share, hey guys, I've reached a certain number of hours of coaching, and I've reached a certain number of revenue, and I'm always proud not of the numbers that you share. This is what I want to acknowledge you for, is that you're competing with yourself, like you're creating your own game to go, hey, this is super cool. I just did X number of hours in the last 12 months. Hey, in the last 12
Yeah.
months, I got, whatever, 5, 6, 20 new clients. And I just always find that fabulous. And I want to acknowledge you for leading by example, which is sharing about money openly, regardless if you're going to get judged. And by the way, you will. Someone will judge you.
Uh-huh.
There's always a critic, right? Always. Even if your number is, gazillions and gazillions. Oh, that's it? Or, right? I mean, I just want to acknowledge you for leading by example, which is being comfortable with playing your own game, setting your own game, playing it, and sharing the numbers. Because I often have seen, men, it's one of the other topics that are least discussed in our men's group conversations is money. We've said sex, for example, and physical
Yeah.
intimacy is another one. Money, I couldn't tell you what 98% of the guys earn or what they want to earn at times because it's like taboo, right? So I just love that you do that.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's certainly been part of my healing journey with my relationship with money is sharing that and sharing openly. And I had my first six-figure year in the coaching business, which is huge. I mean, so many coaches never make it to that
Yay.
number.
Absolutely.
And it feels awesome. It feels awesome to have reached that goal.
Mhm.
And I doubled my revenue this year, which is
That's
like,
awesome.
I mean, incredible. And, both about the money, but also about the work that I've put in. And
Yeah.
I mean, the work that we put in the arena is a big part of that. So
Yeah. Awesome.
it's all together. So I know you have a haircut to get to, but let's do our parting shots.
People who see our video clips are
Yeah,
gonna say, "What
people
hair? What hair is he cutting?"
exactly. They'll be saying, "Why isn't Jake getting a haircut? What's
Yeah,
going on here?"
that's fair.
Jake's not getting a haircut because his fiance likes his hair long. Um,
That's fair too.
so Nick, what's your parting shot?
My parting shot is twofold. One is please find ways to interact and relate to money in an empowering and healthy way. You just referenced it right at the end here, Jake, about your journey in shifting your relationship. And one of the reasons I really believe, um, one of the reasons why I want to encourage folks to really go after that conversation. There's so many that we've even talked about today. One is to give money back, to use money to actually make a difference. You and I have been part of giving back to the Heart School in Haiti as an example. Obviously, we do other things, but we've had our men's groups over the years. We've raised over $200,000 to help the school down in Haiti, and I say all that because money is can be such a beautiful, valuable, useful. Um, I don't know what to call it. It's just all those things. So my parting shot to the first part is use money to make a difference. Use money to make a difference. It's one of my core values, one of our core values as a group. The second, what I would say is be rich in your ways of being and how you show up. Choose how you want to be known, right? Choose, you know, um, the news, the tragedy of Rob Reiner and his wife, right? And you see all the people coming out and all the amazing things they say about him, because he's more in the spotlight, more known. Like, how do you want to be known? When it's your time, to go, if you will, right? Because we all will. You want to be known, and my parting shot is be rich in your ways of being, your core values. I believe that will have you feel rich. And I'm gonna put $1 on it, at least $1. Okay. That it's gonna spell out monetarily as well. If when you choose to show up a certain way, right? You choose to be loving, you choose to be giving, you choose to be outwardly focused, you choose to be fun. If you just lock in on those ways, and those are just an example, you're gonna produce riches.
Love it. For me, my parting shot, a couple things come to mind. One, wherever you are in this conversation around money is perfect. Whether
Mm.
you're in the space of feeling like you have to chase and keep up with the Joneses, whether you're in the space where you think money is evil when you want to take a vow of poverty, whether you're, somewhere in the middle, that wherever that is perfect. And know that it doesn't have to be the definition and define your relationship with money or your relationship with yourself. And really look to how do you create your self-worth outside of how much money you earn? Because
Amen.
the reality is it can be taken away in a heartbeat.
Right.
And not just if you work for a company, whereas my dad says you can show up one day and get the pink slip,
Right.
but we live in uncertain economic times. There is no guarantee the money you have today will be there tomorrow.
Right.
And if you tie your self-worth to the amount of money in your bank account or in your paycheck, you are setting yourself up for failure
Yep.
because one way or another, it will change.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I'll say, given that it is the holidays and we're going into the holiday season, is to be kind to yourself around money. I know there are a lot of pressures on men in particular during the holiday season to provide and buy gifts and maybe exceed your means. I was going to say do what you have to do, but I don't know if that's really the message, which is just be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Awesome. This was great, Jake, as always.
Always, always, Nick. So would love Jake,
With love, Nick.
would love men. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.